Okay, Street Talk this week, as I said earlier, fantastic set of episodes this week. Really, really enjoyed it. Apart from maybe the Gemma stuff, but even that wasn't too bad, to be honest. I thought it was a really strong set of storylines. What was the Gemma stuff? Yeah. It was a bit depressing, but I'm not hating it, I have to say. I mean, for a Gemma storyline, it could be worse. I'd be happy without it, but everything else this week I really, really did enjoy. So we start off with the Yaz lighting storyline, which is still as gripping as ever. Really, really enjoying that, and I think it's developing very, very nicely. And then, a lovely story for Evelyn this week. I couldn't think of a good storyline title at all for this one. I've got Nana Romancer, which doesn't even sound like anything.
You said it in a much more...
Nana Romancer.
Yeah, you said it in a perkier way earlier.
Nana Romancer.
You need to sell it.
Okay, Nana Romancer coming, everybody.
Yeah, that's right.
If you can think of a better storyline title, please send us in a suggestion.
Why don't you?
Next up, more of the...
If you look to your left, you'll see a suggestion box, which will automatically upload to our brains.
Bernie Returney we've got next. Gemma, we thought we got rid of her earlier this year, but she is back. Gemma's mum is on the street wrangling with those quads. Then we had some Stillwater carry on, which sadly didn't continue on to Friday's episode because I was really, really enjoying all of that stuff. You said you quite liked this next storyline title, which I thought was a bit weak, but things seemed like they were getting resurfacing for Seb and Alina today. So, this week at least. So I called the storyline title Sebelina Budding.
I liked it.
Sebelina Budding, because it sounds like Sebelina Pudding. Sebelina Budding. And then we had a little bit more of the Shona the Loner storyline, which has been on the back burner for a little bit. But it seems to be warming up for something happening next week. Now, Gemma, would you like to do the Yaz lighting storyline, or would you want me to take over that one today?
Oh, I'm perfectly happy to tell you what happened.
Oh, good. That means I get to do all the old people storylines this week. Okay,
right. So on Monday, Geoff has made a big breakfast. Yasmeen washes her hands.
Oh, I just wrote that down because of the...
She has to wash her hands because Geoff is being very controlling of her and telling her...
Happy birthday twice.
Geoff gets her slow dancing on the carpet.
Yeah, that was
sweet. Very romantic. If you were...
If you didn't realise that he was a vile, controlling arsehole... then you'd think that was very romantic because he puts on some nice music and gets her dancing around the carpet, just basically painting a pretty picture of how lovely life in Cyprus would be if only she would agree to go out there with him.
Wonder whether if all men who are like this are abusers, because I don't think I've ever been romanced like this.
No,
not many women have. So if your guy starts doing
it's
this...
It's very unusual.
Just be careful.
Something like that to happen, Gemma, keep believing that.
Wait a minute. She looks very happy, but she seems a bit reserved because she's still not really sure about...
She's not really bought into the idea of going over to Cyprus.
Where is Cyprus? It's near Greece.
Yeah.
I don't know that I'd be...
Well, Gemma,
you can go to Cyprus.
He tried to sell the idea because he said that she could have an orangery with real oranges in it.
Oh, okay. Well,
that sounds good.
I would. Where would you want to go to if you had to move to Europe? You had to, and we didn't include England, Scotland, Ireland, and Wales in that, even though we are in Europe.
I don't know. It's kind of all
somewhere in France.
Yeah, I don't know. There are fancy anywhere there at the moment.
Make you talk to everybody.
South of France would be somewhere nice.
I don't know if the south of France we need, because Michael, let's not be snobbish here. The north of France is south to us.
I do find the southern French accent a little bit more difficult to understand.
And I really like Marseille, even though it's really rough. That's why I like a bit of rough, don't I? So over.
Nothing. Carry on.
Over in their flat, Alia's telling Ryan that she can't stop worrying about Yasmeen, and he's trying to reassure her, but he doesn't really know what he's talking about, to be honest.
She smelled a rat.
Geoff is telling her how better their life will be. They could even get a housekeeper to do the cleaning. Oh, amazing.
He's like saying, everything that I'm making you do now, you might have to do over there.
Someone else to do.
Yeah.
And Alia can come whenever she wants. In fact, you imagine she'd get free holidays for the rest of her life. And Yasmeen says, okay, great. And then she gets a big cheer and a hug. This is that love bombing stuff.
Yeah, every time she does something or says something this week which he wants, he immediately showers her with praise and affection and just reinforcing. If you do what I say,
it's going to be smooth sailing for you, baby. At speed dial, Alia accuses Geoff of taking the money that she noticed was missing last week. These things that have been taken out of the till, like the cash withdrawals, up to over £1,000, I think. And he says, I took it out for the menus. I'm not doing anything on the sly. And Alia's saying, no way that these cost that much money, and they're full of spelling mistakes, and they're really cheap.
He also drops a few hints there, doesn't he? Saying, well, if you're fed up with me, don't worry, you won't have to deal with me much longer. So she's like, what's he going on about now?
When Alia's working there, a valuer comes over and says, I've come to put a price on the business. And she goes, no, well, I'm not selling, so we don't need your services. And then he says, no, you're not selling. Mr. Metcalf and his wife are interested in selling. So there you go. The rug gets pulled right underneath from Alia. She rushes over to see Yasmeen, who covers for Geoff and says, oh, that money was for the menus.
Yeah, she's just bought everything that Geoff's told her. I still don't always know whether... You don't know what Yasmeen really thinks sometimes, do you? Whether she's she's just parroting what Geoff's told her because she knows she needs to
believe it.
Yeah. And if she worries that if Geoff finds out that she's not saying that, then she's going to get in trouble.
Well, Alia keeps blabbing, putting her foot in her mouth, doesn't she? So, she says we're going to move to Cyprus. Alia then comes right out and says, Geoff is abusing you. And she says, no, I'm not. And Alia tries to explain that from her perspective she can see. Yeah, she says, you're not standing where I am. Yeah. It's like as plain as the nose on my face here that you are a victim here at Yasmeen, and she's totally denying it. Alia tries to pack a getaway bag for Yasmeen, and as this is happening, of course, Geoff walks in on them doing this. Yasmeen tries to pretend that they're just doing something with washing, but Alia just confronts him immediately and calls him a control freak and says, I'm taking Yasmeen home with me. And Yasmeen says, no, of course I don't want to leave you. And so she's siding with Geoff over Alia. Geoff tells Alia she knows where the door is, and Alia is just in bits. She gets kicked out of her grand's house, and he draws the curtains. She's just standing there in the cold, literally. Rejected by her own grandmother. Geoff tells Yasmeen he's going to confront Alia before she goes spreading her poison to all and sundry. Then, back at the flat, Alia speaks to Toya, who is obviously sympathetic. She's a counsellor. She's probably had experience with this. Counsellor. Yeah. Got nothing to do at the moment. She's a future PA at the moment. Yeah. She suggests a plan. I don't know how good the plan really is. Well, I guess it's a good enough plan. If you got how long is it you have to wait? 34 weeks or something? We'll get to that in a second. Or days. Geoff comes home. Days, that's probably a bit... I think my partner might be abusing me. Okay, madam, if you just wait 34 weeks. Wait about almost a year. Yeah. Geoff comes home and tells Yasmeen, I am leaving you. This marriage is broken. Alia is dead to me. And then Yasmeen says, yes, me too. I'm cutting all ties with her. We will be together. And so they have an embrace, and Yasmeen's just so desperately thankful that he's not going to leave her. She's crying. So next thing we see, what is Toya's plan? Her plan is to go to the police station, Alia and Toya together, to ask the police officer for information about Geoff based on what is called Claire's Law. Or Claire's Law, as I'm sure they call it up in Weatherfield. We're going to say what that is now or later? You can say now if you want. So basically it's just a UK law. I think it's not very old. No, it's like 15 years or so, I reckon. No, I thought it was less than... Was it? I don't know. It's basically it allows people to access information about abusive partners. Potentially to find out whether... they've had... legal trouble, or if they've been arrested or in trouble with the law for any kind of abusive or violent behaviour. Yeah. So Toya kind of lights the touch paper here and then runs off, doesn't she? Because I don't think we get to see any more of her for the rest of the week. It's all back on Alia, Geoff and Yasmeen again. And Wednesday's episode starts off with a Rana-versary, doesn't it? Yeah, can you believe it's been a year since Rana passed on? That was such a great episode. Next. But it's funny, it feels... I don't know, maybe it does feel like about a year, but when it happened, I wasn't expecting it. I hadn't been thinking, it's about this time. But she was having a look at pictures. Kate had put some pictures up on her Instagram once or something, hadn't she? And Alia is going, Alia's online looking for dirt about Geoff, and she doesn't really want to wait the full 34 days to find out what he's been up to. So we have breakfast at the Nazir's. Geoff is just reassuring her that she's doing the right thing to dump Alia, and their future together is going to be great.
And he's just reinforcing the fact that he's saying, well, it was your idea, wasn't it? You're the one that said that we should disown Alia. So he's just making her think that this is all down to her. And also, well done, it was a fantastic idea.
Yeah. Alia is looking up Jeffrey Metcalfe on the internet, and apparently the UK is just full of them.
We should have had a little look about that. I wonder how many there actually are.
She manages to find an article online about Geoff making an affray with his ex-wife. I thought it was.
It was a girlfriend. Yeah, I thought it was ex-wife when I wrote the note.
Somebody. So she apparently the police were called. There was a fight outside of a pub. Alia reckons that this isn't really enough to make Yasmeen see that Geoff's a wronger, but she's going to try and use this information anyway. She goes to see Yasmeen. She won't even answer the door to her at first. So Alia threatens to cause a scene. So Yasmeen lets her in and says, "You've got 5 minutes." Alia's practically begging Yasmeen to hold off moving to Cyprus for a month or two. She says, "If you go now, I will not be able to protect you." She says, "It was Geoff who wrote the reviews. He's been trying to stitch me up. Gran, you've got to believe me." Then we hear Geoff coming up the path because he's being very loud outside. Sorry. Yasmeen's begging her, "Leave. You've got to leave out the back so he doesn't know you're here." Alia refuses, but they manage to get her out the back door. The chain was on the door to slow Geoff's entry to the house down.
Well, it was originally there to slow Alia down, wasn't it? Because when Yasmeen opens the door, she just has a little crack and she's like, "No, Alia, don't come in."
I know, but you have to open it and close it again, don't you?
Yeah.
So it doesn't make sense. Alia's gone, and he's like, "Why did you put the door on the chain?" And she's like, you can't be too careful," which really is all the stuff he's been harping on at her about. So he really hasn't got a leg to stand on if he wants to moan about that. He says, "Well done, you've been cleaning like a demon. I found some great places we can check out in Cyprus." Who says this?
She says, "I love you, thank you for everything." Oh, no, actually,
one
no.
of them too.
Yeah, I don't know.
He's brought her a takeaway. He says, "Yeah, thank you so much for all you've done. Tonight, everything will be about you because you deserve it. You're great."
Yeah.
Alia turns up at the Rovers, tells Eileen what's going on, because Eileen knew about the Yasmeen had
incident.
been. Yeah, she knew about the box. Certain people have different parts of this puzzle piece that add up to the sad truth.
That
she's being abused?
Yes.
What do you need to complete the sentence? It's already complete.
Spelling it out for us slower listeners.
Are you trying to? Why don't you just carry on reading this out?
No, sorry, go on.
Geoff almost catches Yasmeen trying to search about him and the affray that he caused with his ex-girlfriend, and he's suspicious. What's she looking at? Tries to take the laptop. She says, "I don't want you to get angry, but what do you know about Jocelyn Walkie?" Sounds like Jocelyn Walkie. Like, just, when you jostle someone and you go for a walk.
It's when you bump into somebody aggressively.
Like when you're going to have your appendix out, the doctor says, "Don't go for a Jocelyn Walkie now." Be very sedate about it if you're going to go out. He suddenly switches into evil mode and he says, "I want to know who you've been talking to."
I love it when he does that switching because he can act so nice, and when things are going his way and when she's singing his tune, he acts so lovely, but he can just switch, can't he?
Yeah. Geoff
right into Emperor Palpatine.
That Jocelyn was an ex. He lost her temper with him one night in the pub. She attacked him. He tried to defend himself. As usual, he's the victim. But the landlady blamed both of them, and he got in trouble as well. So he's acting all offended, going, "Oh, do you think I would hit Jocelyn? Do you think I'd hit you?" Then he realises that Alia's been around. He's absolutely furious. They're both sitting at the table trying to eat this warmed up takeaway that he brought home, and so he lifts up the plate. It's Yasmeen's plate.
Yeah.
Or his plate.
It's Yasmeen's plate.
That's
he takes
right.
it. Yeah.
Picks it up, holds it out over the floor and just drops it. And it goes on the floor. The plate breaks. Curry goes everywhere. She there is grovelling and apologising and scraping the curry off the carpet, putting it back on the plate, saying it's still good, picking up bits of food, putting it in her mouth to sort of try to placate him. He's watching her, disgusted, says, "You make me sick." Walks off, and she just crumbles into tears. He walks off out of the house. He's on the phone, leaves her by herself. Then we see Yasmeen trying to scrub the carpet off his curry while Geoff is whining and dining a woman that he's met online who we think is an escort. Her name is Rachel, which apparently is the name to pick if you want to be an escort, because that was what Leanne called herself.
Oh, was it?
Well, somebody on Facebook said that. I can't remember who. On Twitter, I mean. On Friday, Yasmeen's woken up on the sofa. She doesn't know where Geoff is. There's no answer on her phone. Yasmeen goes out and finds Tim. Have you heard from him? No, I haven't heard anything. She goes to speed dial, and as she walks in, she hears Alia's on the phone mentioning Geoff Metcalf's name. I thought she'd think that he had died or something. Because if I walked in, I was missing my husband, and then I saw my granddaughter on the phone with the police saying his name, I'd think the worst has happened. He's died. But no, she knows that that Alia's up to something to disrupt her happy marriage. She's very offended that she's looking this up. Alia's getting frustrated. Yasmeen says, "You're not the best judge of character. Do you remember Josh? Remember your ex-boyfriend who raped David?" Alia's saying, "Are you going to choose Geoff over me?" Yasmeen doesn't answer, but Alia knows that she's not the chosen one.
Yes.
Meanwhile, Yasmeen goes back home, and eventually Geoff turns back up again. He's very grumpy. He says he's been walking and thinking. I don't know if he's been doing that the entire 24 hours. Lets her grovel.
He's probably got a few eggs to hatch on his Pokemon Go, and he wanted to do a few
laps around the block. He makes out that she wants to ruin every plan he makes, and he only does it for the good of them together. And he's there, trying to work for the pair of them, and she's just undermining everything he does. Yasmeen says, "No, that's not the case. I just don't want to rush off into things." But he won't really accept this. He's grumpy, slopes off to the shower, goes to work later, and it's him and Alia at speed dial together. Tells Alia that the Cyprus trip is not off, it's just been delayed. And they kind of have a bit of a sparring together. Then he spends the evening just dossing around on his phone, making Alia's life more difficult than it needs to be, and booking in to see his secret lover.
The lovely Rachel. So, I thought enjoyed this week. Did you think there was more good developments in the Geoff and Yasmeen saga?
Yeah. I think it's interesting that Toya got involved. For the drama and the realism of the show, Alia can't really do what... Thing is, if you've been through this, that somebody who's being abused like this, there's nothing you can do, really. You can't help them because they have to help themselves, and they won't listen to you. And even when they do listen to you, there's always reasons and excuses to why they can't leave their partner, because they've been brainwashed, basically. So Toya can't really say to Alia, "Don't bother," because it won't help, because that's not very compelling or interesting, and it also doesn't... It tells rather than shows. But it is good that Toya told her about Claire's law, which is something I wasn't aware of. So hopefully, if anyone watching at home who that is of benefit to, will find out about that being a thing.
I find it interesting how there's quite a few minor side players in this story. Toya's one of them at the moment. Now she's been in it a few weeks, but just a little bit. The same with Eileen. Every so often they'll say, "Remember Eileen? She's part of this storyline too."
Yeah.
She kind of knows something, and you think, okay, is she going to be the one that finds the damning evidence of Geoff? I don't know. And the same with Tim as well. He's considering this is about Tim's dad, he's had so little to do in this story, and then today he was just in it in the cab office. Sometimes I think with some characters it's like they've told the actor they can be in a certain number of episodes per year, and so they just throw them into a scene for no particular reason, because as far as I could tell from watching tonight's episode, the plot didn't benefit from Tim finding out that Yasmeen was looking for where Geoff was. But again, maybe they're kind of starting to build something for Tim realising that his dad's a wrong un there. But I'd have thought he'd have realised it by now, I don't know. And the same with, who else is, Ryan as well, sometimes very occasionally on the outskirts of this story. So there's lots of characters, and if only they'd got, put their heads together, they might be able to solve this little mystery. So maybe that's together they're going to help drag Yasmeen away from Geoff. Speaking of which, I thought that the scene where Alia was trying to get Yasmeen to leave was quite exciting. I wondered whether whether she would actually do it. Every week, I'm getting closer and closer to thinking, I think she's going to
be the end.
I mean, she's going to leave him this week. There's going to be some kind of exciting climax, and I don't think it's just going to be her running away. But it's almost like she's edging closer and closer to the door.
Yeah.
The green flashing exit sight is beckoning her forwards, but then something happens. He in classic soap villain fashion appears just in time to stop her. But yeah, it was great, and I'm glad as well for Alia that she's been proactive in trying to separate the two of them now, rather than just moaning. Although I mean, she probably was a little bit hasty in trying to just say let's pack a bag and go.
I know. I don't think she's really thinking about it from Yasmeen's point of view, because when you think of it in an abstract manner, oh yes, you should leave your partner because they're abusive. But if you put yourself in it, like say everything about your life was the same as it is now, except your partner is abusive, how easily would you be able to take your life and put it somewhere else, like your job, your house, your living situation, your money? How easy is it really for you to take away your life from your partner? And that the other problem is that very often abusive partners will make you dependent upon them just for that reason, because they know if they do that, you won't be able to escape.
Well, he's already in charge of Yasmeen's finances, isn't he?
She can't just.
I mean,
even apart from everything else, there's still going to be a bit of that person who believes the other person will be, they're just stressed out now, or there's just some reason why they're doing this.
Yeah, Yasmeen desperately wants Alia to be wrong in this, but there is part of her, I think, who knows.
I don't. Yeah.
But I don't blame Alia for trying to get Yasmeen away like that, because she's run out. It feels like she's run out of options. She's been saying for months and months and months that Geoff's the wrong one, and Yasmeen's not been listening. And you can see how frustrated Alia is all the way through this. In the scene in Speed Darling today, when Yasmeen was still saying the same old thing about, no, I trust Geoff, and pretty much saying, I trust Geoff over you, I'd pick him over you, and Alia there is just like saying, why can't you see? Get these make the scales fall off your eyes, Gran. So I'm not surprised at all that she just was like, enough is enough, you're coming with me.
I know, it's really frustrating. I mean, I said before on this podcast, I had a friend who went through this, and I really just wanted to shake her and say, it's so obvious to everybody what is happening to you is wrong, and you shouldn't let this happen.
And that friend lives away from us. I just wonder if the friend lived around the corner, would you just be, how tempted would you be to just say, right, you're coming with me, as reckless as that would be? At the end of the day, you want your friend to be safe. Alia is desperate for Yasmeen to be safe because she knows.
I know. I got told off by one of my other friends for trying to tell her, because I was doing it over Facebook, and they were saying, oh, he can probably read her messages, you're doing more harm than good, or whatever. I don't know if that's the case or not, but you just can't know. It's like a minefield.
Yeah, I just hope that they, even though it was a botched attempt at a rescue, I hope that Yasmeen, the idea has been put into Yasmeen's head now that she'll think at some point, if I wish that Alia had taken me away, and she'll make a break for it herself. But I'm really enjoying Alia. This story almost feels like it's the making of Alia for me, and I'm sure it won't last.
Her irritating, but it's holier than thou nature
Yeah.
against a worthy adversary.
They have. I'm sure it won't last, and the next time she's in a story that's separate from this, I'll find her boring again. But I'm totally on her side at the moment, and I'm thinking go Alia. So well done, Coronation Street, for changing my opinion on her there. What else did we have happening this week? The dinner plate scene was awesome. There's been quite a few dinner related
It's like he's trying to starve her. He's always taking her food or like
what's this slop? Throw it in the bin.
I'm not eating that.
Then there was the obviously the chicken scene a few weeks ago.
Eat this crab. Eat this chicken.
Yeah, it really. Yeah, he's got a real control over her eating, hasn't he? It's grim. And when she was there scraping the curry off the floor, and she put it in her mouth and then spat it out. And just to have him there saying, "You sicken me, you disgust me," yeah, it was him who made her do it. It's fab. But again, for people who aren't enjoying this storyline, must be so sick of it at the moment. If you're not into that sort of thing, it must be very, very, very difficult to watch.
It's not something that we need. Well, if you thought this was going to be over quickly,
yeah,
you've luckily not been faced with the reality of what it's like for someone.
And to be honest, there was a stage about 3 or 4 months ago where I think I complained on the podcast that it was getting a little bit repetitive. It'd be like
you were always moaning and saying, "So nothing really happened."
Yeah, it would. I remember saying that there were a variety of little stories, little plots that would happen every 6 weeks, and I said that they could have been put in any order. Basically, there didn't seem to be any escalation. It was just Geoff does something nasty to control Yasmeen, and then we go, "Grrr, Geoff," and shake our fists at him, and then that's enough for another month. But it does feel now that it's ramping up nicely. The story seems to be appearing on screens more frequently. I think the Coronation Street bosses know that it's getting people talking. I've seen lots of people saying this is the biggest story that Corrie's got at the moment. This is the best story. This is the most gripped I've been for a Coronation Street storyline for a long time. So it's not a surprise, particularly to me, that they're going all out on it, really. I know it can't last forever, and I wouldn't want it to.
They've done a really, really good job of the Chinese water torture of this abuse, where it starts off and it's very subtle and very small, and it's just undermines you and your confidence and your ability to think for yourself, and it's like you say, it's ramping up, but.
And every week there's always a little scene where you think that she's going to go, or she finds something that makes her think. Like this week when she was looking at the article online, I was thinking, is this the moment that she's going to realise what's happened? The fact that she hasn't completely given up and she's exploring these avenues, even though to Alia's face she's having to say no, I trust my husband. In the back of her mind, there's the little Alia voice telling her, just look at this, just listen to me, believe me. It's great. And Geoff, the prostitute was
weird. That's a weird curveball. I don't understand.
Yeah, when
nothing I've ever really seen about abusive partners would indicate that this is part of the way that you control people.
I was a bit confused about who it was at first. When I saw he was there with another woman, I was like, is this Tim's mum? Was she looking a bit young? I didn't know, but I wonder where that's going, because do you remember I don't remember when it was now, 4 or 5 months ago or something, Geoff was looking at dating sites, or do you remember, and Yasmeen saw him looking at a dating site, and then he got all offended and he thought that she was I can't remember exactly what happened with it now, but I think he's going to make Yasmeen find out that he's been seeing another woman, and then she'll get
sort of threaten her. Yeah. She'll say, "You're not my only resort here.
Yeah,
I might be yours, but I can have my pick."
Yeah, just to see if she'll go, yes, of course you can, Geoff.
I'm sure he'll be like, you're no spring chicken, Yasmeen. I could do better than you.
Yeah, I've got needs, I'm a hot-blooded man.
Yeah, because he what was it? He was horrible about her dress sense, wasn't he?
Yeah, about
he
her dress sense,
horrible?
about her weight.
That's right. Yes,
Under
that's right.
thighs, yes.
Yeah, and saying that, you know, the outfit that he made her dress up in.
Yeah.
God,
And
man.
if she thinks that he's got another girlfriend, which I'm guessing is going to be happening, then she's just going to be bowing down to him even more and at his
winning
beck
back.
and call.
Oh, what skin crawling git.
Yeah, basically. And then there's this Cyprus plan as well. I mean, I don't think they're going to get to a stage where he tries to take her to Cyprus, but I do wonder, like, what's his aim there? If they went to Cyprus, would he lay off on the abuse because he finally gets what he wants, which is just him and her and somebody to look after her, or would he literally lock her up in his in their villa and
abuse,
have her?
I don't think abuse has an end goal. It's an ongoing process, isn't it?
Yeah. I suppose maybe he just wants to get her over there so that he can continue treating her like this without meddling family members.
Getting him in trouble or worrying about being found out.
Yeah.
Because especially if there's a language barrier, they're not going to be making friends with next door, if they don't speak the language.
It's like isolating her to the extreme, isn't it? Although it'd just be their luck if they happen to be on the same place that Maria's parents live, because then they live in Cyprus at the moment. I'm sure that Maria and Kirk's mum and dad have got a donkey sanctuary over there or something.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
And that'd be just his luck to move in next to them.
Those donkeys are so pampered, aren't they?
I think one of them's dead now. I don't even remember.
What, the donkey?
No, the parents. One of the Sutherlands. I remember. Anyway, yeah, great stuff. I've got. I don't even know whether the story's going to come next week. I mean, 34 days time is going to take us a long time to get to now because they're not filming because of the episode reduction. But lots more to go. Very, very cool. Very, very cool indeed.
Yeah.
So let's move on to the Evelyn storyline then, which again I thought was absolutely adorable. I love Evelyn, and ever since she came in, I've enjoyed the character's kind of the comedy that the character brings. I enjoy her battle axeness, but what I've always said as well is we need to see a more human side to her. And when we do get to see, what's underneath that toughened exterior, it always makes me love the character even more. And
when she's vulnerable, she is incredibly endearing.
She so is, and it's. I mean, we're finding the same with Ina in the old episodes now, aren't we?
Yeah.
She's as tough as old boots in public, but there have been the odd scene here and there where Ina she lets her guard down a little bit. Maybe she's just in the vestry on her own or something, and she has a little cry about something. The episodes that we saw with her daughter Vera dying as an example.
Yeah.
You get to see Ina Sharples does actually have a heart in there, and then now we're seeing the same with Evelyn.
A lot of the time, when somebody is very prickly and abrupt and acidic and sarcastic, it's because they've built up a protective layer around themselves because they are more vulnerable or more tender-hearted than the average person, and most of it is a front to protect themselves and their emotions.
Well, before this week, we already knew that Evelyn had a bit of a tough time in the past, especially with Cassie and having to get her off the drugs and everything, and this just added an extra layer to her past, which I'm just finding fascinating.
Very
I really,
charming
really am.
and endearing.
Yeah, but I mean, it starts off with a bit of sad news that Cerberus is a bit under the weather, isn't he? And they have to go and take Cerberus to the vet.
This was really interesting to me because exactly the same thing happened with my parents' dog Ben.
Oh yeah.
So this week, Ben, who is
big Rottweiler.
He's a cross though, isn't he?
Yeah,
he was. My mum and dad got him from a rescue centre, and he was abused as a pup because he was owned by some girls who lived in a flat, and they never took him out, and they used to let their boyfriends come round and beat him up to prove how tough they were because they were beating up a Rottweiler, and so he was scared of men and everything. But as soon as the first time he saw my dad, he came over and let him hug him. So obviously he's got. We've got a massive soft spot for him because he's such a big softie.
Yeah, he's lovely.
But he is got really because of how he's abused. He's got really weak back legs, and so he's also got joint pain, and he just really can't exercise or get out, and you have to lift him in and out of the car. And when we went on holiday at Halloween last year, it was really a bit heartbreaking to see how difficult it was for him to get around. And we were in a house and he couldn't go up the stairs, and it was awful. But they took him to the vets this week, and he's now on anti-inflammatories. Exactly the same thing has happened to Cerberus, except that Ben is very overweight, apparently, that we didn't realise how fat he actually had gotten, because he is a big chonker anyway. So he's losing weight now, and apparently he is doing much better. So that was really good news my mum and dad gave me today. Just wanted to share that with you. Ben is doing well. I know you weren't worried. But I was happy to hear that, so I wanted to share.
Yes.
Yeah, anyway, Cerberus. How's Cerberus, Michael?
Oh, it's riddled with arthritis, apparently.
Bless
and I
him.
felt bad for Evelyn, because there's all this... She talks about all these options for treatments and operations or whatever, but she can only afford joint pills for him. But even then, she's shocked about how much the bill comes to. And it's true, vets are so expensive, aren't they? Tyrone mentions, I bet you wish you kept up with the insurance.
It's 400 quid for mum and dad today.
It's so difficult, because you pay anything for your pets, wouldn't you? But it doesn't.
I know, but you can't. Within reason, like you can't bankrupt yourself.
No.
Like when Safi went in for the last time, that was like a couple of grand.
Yeah, it was. That was horrible. But there was nothing we could do for Safi. But I mean, if there's a chance of saving them, and it's just sad that it's a poor old pensioner, really.
I know. She's got to pay out for these joint pills.
Yeah. Anyway,
the bill's pretty steep.
Yeah. And then this is where we meet Arthur, who's got a rogue cockapoo who comes running out of the vet's.
Well, Evelyn's very
office.
sniffy about the cockapoo. She says they're everywhere.
But yeah, this Arthur is a face from Evelyn's past. He recognises her as Evelyn Pritchard, and he gives her a big hug, and she's very awkward about it. And Tyrone realises that there's a bit of history between these two lovebirds, and he kind of plays Cupid a little bit. And Evelyn, she's been great this week, as kind of, she clearly wants to spend time with this Arthur. She kind of is still carrying a torch for him a little bit, but she doesn't want to admit it, and she's playing hard to get a little bit, isn't she? And just like hinting,
she's guarded. She doesn't want to be hurt again.
Yeah, and she says, well, sometimes I like to walk around Victoria Gardens,
Well, no, she basically says, anyway, I've got to go, but I'm usually around. I always go to Victoria Gardens after the school run. Like, she lets him know exactly where she will be. She doesn't arrange a date with him, but she makes her movements known.
Yeah, because if she was arranging a date with him and he rejected her, then she would lose face. But this way, she's just hinting.
Oh, shit. It's really sad to say this, but I do think if I would be like Evelyn. I can see myself being like this.
They go back home, and Ty teases her a little bit, and he also doesn't eat some of the dog biscuits that the girls are baking for.
They make some special biscuits,
as well. Yeah, Tyrone goes and eats them. That's funny. Anyway, Wednesday, more teasing from Tyrone to Evelyn. I love the relationship that those two have got. And he's teasing her, saying rotten about her taking Cerberus to meet out with this Arthur bloke. And so she does indeed go and sit at the bench in Victoria Gardens, and Cerberus is there licking his parts, apparently.
Well, someone's got to.
Eventually, Arthur shows up. He needs to sort out his timekeeping, Arthur, doesn't he?
A dodgy watch or something.
Maybe that's going to be the big reveal.
Spoilers.
That's going to be the twist on Monday. He turns up eventually, and they just have a nice chat, a nice reminisce about old times, and the story goes that they used to step out, as I think she put it to Claudia today, with him, and then he went off to Canada without her, and he says, I was waiting at the airport for 3 hours for you, but you didn't show up. And she said, it was when my dad had a heart attack, didn't you know? So it's one of these tragic stories that
the missed connections.
Yeah, and he thought that she'd abandoned him, and she thought that he'd gone off without her, not caring, and but she's still being very guarded about this, and kind of acting like things turned out for the best. And even though clearly I don't think either of them really believe that, but you don't want to admit that you've, wasted, I don't know what the right word is, your life, separated from somebody who could have been the love of your life.
God, it sounds depressing.
I know.
At least we'll never have that trouble, darling.
Anyway, even worse, it transpires that he's been back in the UK since the 80s, so he's been here like 30, 40 years or so.
No,
he got married.
The 80s wasn't that long ago.
Oh, yeah. No. he got married, he got widowed, and then this is when Evelyn says, oh, no, that's really hard. The first time I wrote a Christmas card without whatever his name, my husband's name on it, I was really choked up and I sobbed.
Oh my God, I know. And I was thinking, oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's going to be tough, isn't it? When Michael's gone.
Like, finally, I get full credit for this because he hasn't put a single bit of work into any
you'll have to write all the cards.
Well, I ain't sending it to people I don't want.
You don't have to send them to my side of the family.
No.
Friday. Oh yeah, they agreed. They kind of semi-agreed to meet up on Friday. Maybe Arthur just didn't pick up on Evelyn's obvious hinting, which is why he didn't show up at the Rovers today. Anyway, Friday, Evelyn overhears Fizz and Tyrone speculating about her and her old flame and said, it's none of your business, but yes, we did meet up actually, and we're going to go out for the Rovers tonight. She's obviously a little bit excited about it, but she doesn't want to let on. It's very cute. So she goes over to the Rovers and asks Jenny if she can reserve a booth later, and Jenny's like, that's a bit weird.
Really?
Not really.
Okay then, if you insist.
She should have said, you got to get through Rita first, because Rita is on that seat 6 o'clock every night.
Gin and tonic.
Gin and tonic in hands, yeah.
Price it out.
Yeah. So Evelyn's, she's very kind of cagey about what it is she wants the booth for and everything, and then in the background Claudia and Audrey are listening in, a bunch of pair of gossips.
She said it's a gentleman I used to step out with in the 60s.
Yeah, and then we have Claudia and Audrey fighting over who's going to do a hair up to make her look nice. I think they both want the opportunity for a bit of a makeover for Evelyn, but in the end she goes for Claudia's more tempting offer. And
well, basically, what does Claudia say? Darling, why would you hire Tony Hart when you can have Michelangelo?
Yeah, basically, I love it. So she gets to work, which starts off with plucking Evelyn's whiskers. I thought that scene was fantastic because it's obviously it's Ruler and Maureen together, flatmates, best friends. They don't really have that many scenes together, do they? But they were fantastic. I want more Evelyn and Claudia. Anyway, she ends up getting
she does a write up, doesn't she?
She does a write up. Well, maybe almost a little bit too much, or at least that's what Evelyn's saying. She says she's been made to look like a chihuahua in a wind tunnel and demands that Claudia sort her out. Claudia, sort her out and make her look a bit more normal. Claudia refuses, so Evelyn manages to see her off without having to pay her.
Evelyn looks at herself in the mirror and sort of like,
there's
up all right.
Yeah, she does. There's an ever so slight little, smug lip purse at the end of that scene, wasn't there? That you could kind of blink and miss almost. But Evelyn's actually it's kind of like an I've still got it kind of look she gives herself. And I was wondering how that was going to turn out, because Maureen Lipman does scrub up very nicely for the awards show, doesn't she? And
she's
and when she's done magazine shoots and everything. But
good bone structure.
She has. So I wanted to see them make Evelyn full on, Maureen Lipman on a night out kind of thing. And although they didn't go quite that far, but she looked very nice when she was waiting in the booth later for Arthur, and Jenny's put the reserved signs all over the place. She must have had to print them out proper. I
know, she probably never used them before.
I know. So anyway, basically Arthur doesn't turn up, and she's there looking very vulnerable.
And everyone's watching her and looking at her and talking about it, but in a nice way, like we would be. Like, oh no, it's so sad that she's being stood up, but Evelyn would hate.
Yeah, she's such a proud person.
To feel sorry for her.
Yeah, she doesn't want anybody.
And she doesn't want to be vulnerable, and this is probably what she was worried about all along. And
if I let my guard down, then
people are going to talk about me or feel bad for me, and I don't want that to happen. Oh, poor Evelyn.
It is. I mean, it was a very classic kind of soap move that somebody thinks they're going to have a date on them, and then they get stood up, and then the next episode they say, "Oh well, screw you then," and then the person says, "Oh, it's not my fault. I don't know.
I left my Yorkshire pudding in the oven."
Yeah, something like he'll have some kind of excuse, won't he, Arthur, on Monday? I don't know whether something's happened to his dog or...
No, heaven forfend.
But, I mean, this story is wonderful. Really.
Yeah.
Arthur, who's one of these, like, he seems like a real decent gent. I don't want him to have an evil secret or anything like that. I'd love to...
My evil secret is I'm a cockapoo dogfight arranger.
Is it boring that Evelyn just has a nice guy that she goes out with? It's reminding me a little bit of Rita when she went out with Ted Sullivan, the ever so lovely, what was he, stationery salesman or sweet salesman? I can't remember. And then it turned out that he had a horrific brain tumour and he only had a few months to live. But I just like the idea of having a romance story with Evelyn, because she's only really had stuff to do with Tyrone so far, and this feels like it's not in any way a Tyrone or Fizz story. This is Evelyn's own storyline.
Yeah,
it's about time.
So who plays Arthur?
I don't know who
Why
plays
don't you look
Arthur.
This up?
It's some guy who's a famous actor.
Guy.
He's been on Emmerdale. Or
I definitely recognise him. He's been in lots of things.
Yeah, he's a famous guy that does kind of make me think, how long is he going to be in Coronation Street for?
Paul Copley.
What does it say he's been in?
Oh, I've got to agree to the cookies.
He doesn't, to me, feel like he's going to be in it for the long term, which is sad because it means Evelyn's heart's going to break. But on the other hand, that's quite good because it means we get to see more of Evelyn's vulnerable side.
This is probably why I recognise him. He was in Corrie in 2007 playing Ivor Presley. This is from heart.co.uk. Ex-husband of Norris Cole's former wife Angela, and he was in it for a few months.
Okay.
But he's also been in Minder, Last Tango in Halifax, Call the Midwife, Inside Number 9 is probably another one where I know him from.
Yeah.
And Hornblower, Queer as Folk, and he was the narrator for How Clean Is Your House?
Oh, really?
The answer is always not as clean as it should be.
Oh,
and now I know where I know him from. He was in Downton Abbey. He was William Mason's dad.
I don't remember that.
Yes, 16 episodes. He was the lad that went to war. Spoiler alert, died.
Yeah.
And it was the little girl who worked in the kitchen. Her boyfriend William.
Yeah.
You know the waiter. What are they called? And he went to war and died, and she had to marry him before he went off. It was his dad, and then he adopted Daisy.
He wasn't the one who was the farmer guy.
Yes, that's why.
Oh, he was great in that.
I tell you what.
There we go.
Actors.
We really should have put the pieces together before recording the podcast, but
actors who get to play roles like this are like little stealthy git faces, because you see them and you're like, I have so much compassion, empathy and love for you, and I've forgotten why, but I just feel like you deserve all the happiness in the world. And it's because they played a role in something that was really nice and sympathetic, but he can probably trick people into giving him free Costas.
Yeah, I bet he can.
Yeah.
I hope that he doesn't turn out to be evil. What have you got any kind of thoughts, any predictions, or where's this story going to end up going?
No.
Do you think that they're going to...
I really don't know where this is going. Like you say...
It feels like it can only end in tragedy,
I feel the same way, because that's the only, human beings really spend all our lives striving for happiness and peace, but when we get it, we can't really cope with it. We just cause havoc. And we always have to have something to strive against, and life's nothing without conflict. So Evelyn can't ever find happiness.
Yeah.
She wants to stay in the show.
I mean, how often do the Battle Axe characters find love on Coronation Street? Ina Sharples didn't. Sylvia didn't have anybody. Blanche didn't have anyone, although she got close there with Archie, didn't she? Yeah. But I don't care. I'm going to enjoy it while I can, honestly. I hope that... I hope the Cerberus is going to be okay, though.
He'll be fine, hopefully. If it's just arthritis.
But I don't know. Is that bad for dogs?
It's not great.
It did. I did appreciate the Monica name drop when they were talking about Cerberus, because Tyrone was like, "Oh, I remember when Monica died," and I was like, We
Do
don't
you?
remember that because they certainly didn't ever show it on the story on the show. She just wasn't in it anymore. Oh yeah, and then they had that bit with Fizz joking about the red wreck being full of dog ashes, which is quite funny.
I thought that was really bizarre.
It was a bit macabre, wasn't it?
She's saying you like when you go to the red wreck, there are dog ashes scattered everywhere.
Yeah. And then you fall over and you got dog ash in your face, and that I can't remember. I thought it was funny, as grim as it was.
Who's killing all these dogs?
I don't know. But can I say as well, Fizz's hair in tonight's episode, very nice.
What did you say about it? You said something.
I just said, like, Jenny McAlpine's got the most gorgeous hair on the street, I think.
Yeah, you said. Yeah, I'm sure she'll be happy to hear that.
It was flipping lovely, because she had a salon scene, didn't she? Because they actually showed the salon for the first time, and I don't know how long. It's just the barbers all the time now, isn't it? But yes, Jenny McAlpine looked very, very lovely in tonight's episode, so I just wanted to point that out.
Just have magnificent hair.
And I also appreciated the vet's set, because I think it was a set and not an actual vet, because one of the people on Coronation Street was saying, oh, I'm pleased with the work that we did on that, so that looked good. And I liked the Tyrone's chinny thing. You remember he did that when he didn't believe Evelyn the other day? And he was doing his stroking his chin and going, chinny, chinny. And although we didn't say chinny when we were young, we did have a thing that if you didn't believe somebody, you'd kind of scratch your chin and we would go itchy chin, itchy chin.
Yeah.
And I haven't heard that for years.
I remember saying to you that we used to say itchy chin, and you said that you didn't say itchy chin.
No, we definitely said itchy chin.
Yeah, so in our school, if you didn't believe somebody, you would say itchy chin, and then you would pull your bottom lip up over your bottom teeth to extend your chin and stick your chin out and go and scratch your chin at them.
I think that we used to just like stroke our imaginary beards like Pai Mei from Kill Bill 2. So it was, even though we were saying itchy chin, we weren't actually itching our chins at all. We were just stroking these little, devil beards that we had underneath. It's so weird. Where did these things come from? And then they just disappear, because children certainly don't say that anymore. But as somebody our age, Tyrone is our age, isn't he? That would have been what he would have said at school. So I liked that little 90s reference.
There's so many weird things that we used to say at school. And I really liked that little blast from the past.
But it also did remind me of Gary's mate in the army, sadly. Quinny! Chinny!
That's interesting as well, because obviously Tyrone is in the north, you're in the Midlands, and I was in the south, and all the children, because Tyrone's like a similar age to us. I don't know who wrote the script or who was responsible for adding that in, but like every child of our generation, no matter what part of the country they were raised in, was going itchy chin, and the parents were going, I don't understand you.
Did you have itchy chin, listeners? Is it just us? Do you remember itchy chin? Did they have itchy chin in Canada? If you don't believe somebody.
Itchy chin.
Itchy chin, eh?
That's what you had to say. Itchy chin.
Right. Let's move on to the next story. The Quadranglers Bernie returnee.
Yes, Quadranglers on Monday. Everyone is tired and stressed out with all the babies everywhere. And then who should turn up but Bernie?
Yeah, Gemma phoned her up last week, didn't she?
She was like, just for a chat. And I think that she picked up on how desperate things had got.
The cry for help.
Shez Brown, Winter Brown.
Chez.
So she invites herself over to sort of help out. Gemma's trying to make out everything's fine. Billy and Paul come over, and they're surprised to see her, because how were things left? I can't remember.
The last time we saw Bernie, she did that.
She basically said, "Oh, I'm sorry, I messed everything up."
Yeah, because she did the catfishing, wasn't she? And Callan leapt out on him in the park and screwed things up for Paul.
Yeah.
So
they're surprised. So, but actually, she does a good job of trying to. She's actually doing a decent mum job.
Yeah, I don't think. Oh, maybe there's one thing, but Bernie doesn't really do too much annoying or irresponsible or reckless this week. Although maybe a little bit on Wednesday when she realises what the mums are like.
She heard that we were doing a best Coronation Street mums episode, and she really wanted. No, it was worse.
We did worse Coronation Street.
And she was trying to get herself off the list.
Yeah, off the top 5 for our Patreon episode. Yeah.
if you want to know if it worked, you need to subscribe to our Patreon. On Wednesday, Gemma's getting paranoid because she thinks that Karis has stopped breathing. She's just hyper-focused on these babies.
Hypersensitive to everything about them, because there's these 4 little mini lives that are depending on her.
She's spiralling into... what's it called? Postnatal depression or something. Like, the worse, like... The harder it is, the worse she feels, the more she tries, the more she tires herself out, the harder it is, the worse she gets, and then it carries on like a vicious cycle of her.
I mean, we can
take full responsibility.
I mean, all us viewers can relate to bringing up quads and how difficult it is. It's a common
quads. As you all know now, none of them made it.
It's just so hard, isn't it?
I was like, this is difficult. I'm just going to leave them under a gooseberry bush where I found them.
Yeah, I was actually octo dad, so I had 8 to contend with at some point. I mean,
dad.
I only found 7 of the bodies, so the 8th one is around somewhere.
Really grim. You're not allowed to make jokes about killing babies, Michael.
Oh, okay.
Oh, it's bad taste.
So, yeah, thank you, Coronation Street, for letting us know with this very, really important issues-based story. Funny. That looking after quads is a very real issue that many people have to deal with on a day-to-day basis.
I know that you thought that quads would be a comedy storyline because Gemma's a comedy character. Actually not funny.
And for those of us who don't have quads, I forgot what I was going to say. What was I going to say?
Don't do what she did, or do what she...
the people who don't have quads think it's really easy raising them, isn't it?
Oh,
and actually this is teaching us a lesson that actually, no, you'd think it was easy raising quads.
Yeah, and we should be more compassionate really to those of us amongst the population who have 4 babies.
Yes.
Because that's what the world is lacking, is compassion for quad parents. Bernie's like, look, you're getting stressed out. Let's go to town. Let's just take the kids out, go for coffee or something, have a cake. And Gemma says, no, I can't. I've got to go to baby census class, which is not to check what their religion is. It's census to see whether they like crispy things.
Do babies like it when they're wrapped up in tin foil?
Apparently they bloody love it.
And if so, how do you stop them doing it and then climbing into the oven to roast themselves like a chicken?
And should you? Bernie says,
I hope Gemma doesn't do it, but she's getting really kind of tired and not knowing what she's doing at the moment. If she's cooking a roast dinner, you've got 1 pan full of a chicken in foil, 1 pan with a baby full of foil. You've got to watch what you're doing, otherwise the wrong one goes in the oven.
Got to separate them, because you know what? Those babies carry salmonella like you wouldn't believe. You've not seen the famous episode of MASH where a baby is confused with a chicken, have you?
No.
It's harrowing.
That's it. I bet
harrowing.
That sounds it. Yeah.
That baby. I tell you what though, that chicken got through university really well.
Well, I wonder if Gemma did put one of the babies in the oven, how long she would go before she realised that she's rocking a chicken in her arms. And so this has been a bit quiet.
This is bad taste.
I'm sure. When she tucks in for her chicken dinner and pigs in blankets.
I feel like this cranberry sauce does not go. Where's the apple sauce? This is horrible. This is really horrible. Bernie says, I will come with you to the class to help you out. I'm not a monster. So, Imogen and Bernie have a clashing together over the benefits of tough love versus plonk him in front of the TV. Bernie sort of shows off her lackadaisical approach to parenting. I think out of everybody, she's the one who's most qualified to talk about how to parent, because she's actually parented 2 children, whereas these mums are on their first young one.
Is that what they've said? Are they both?
I think I'm just going to assume that they're all first time.
I tell you what, all this week I was like, I know that one of these is called Imogen, but I'll be blowed if I know what the other one's called. So in our notes here, it says Imogen and the other one. And I still can't remember now.
Imogen is the mean one, and Vanessa's the nice
one.
Vanessa,
is it? Yeah, it is. It's Vanessa, isn't it? They're both the same to me. I can't distinguish between them.
While you were watching it,
blind.
saying, I can't decide which one is which, and I don't know if I care, I was going, I'm so glad that Coronation Street has decided to put a storyline where we pit mums against each other, because there's not enough of that going on in the world. Not enough judgment of people about how they raise their children and whether or not they're doing a good job. And also, I was really glad to see Coronation Street address again this really vital issue of class-based warfare, where we just assume that everybody who is middle class is a horrible bitchy snob, and everybody who's working class is like some kind of unsung hero.
But how middle class can she be if she lives in Maudsley Street?
I don't understand this. She shares a ginnel with Gemma, but she has an au pair.
Unless we're mixing them up, I don't know.
One of them has an au pair.
Yeah.
Which I also was being judged as being out of touch, but if you can throw money at somebody to look after your baby for you, I say bloody good luck for you, and everybody should have the same thing. Because, well, back, it didn't used to just be one mum by herself having to look after a baby and worry about, going back to work and all the rest of it like we have now. There should be no shame in you asking someone to help you out. And if you don't have a family or friends to help you, and you can't, have a childminder or something, why not?
Exactly.
It just drives me nuts. We don't need to be judging mums about whether they have an au pair, whether they have a bird, have they got a bird feeder in their garden? Who does she think she is? She's got a bird feeder. Can we not stop with this?
Anyway, we shouldn't be sympathising with the villains of the piece here.
This is what I mean, though. They're bitchy and horrible, but I hate to rock the world here with this piece of news that apparently I'm the only one who knows about. Anyone can be a bitch. It doesn't necessarily mean just because you're upper class snobby person doesn't mean that you're automatically the bitch and everyone else is just your horrible victim. And also,
misunderstood chav.
People assume that just if you've got a certain accent or you're a certain person that you're snobby or posh or something. I remember one time had a go at somebody had a go at me in class and called me a snobby because we had different sets. So I was set 1 because that was like the highest, and then we went down, and then we also had year groups where we got mixed up with all the different sets.
Yeah.
And I remember a girl from set 4 going to me, "Oh, you set 1s are all so snobby and you think you're so great and wonderful, and because you've got posh mums and dads." And it's like, we live on the same estate. I don't know what you're talking about. You live around the corner from me. I live in a council house. How can you call me a snob? You know what I mean? I just hate it when Coronation Street does this. It really winds me up. We don't really need to be building divisions. Not between people in different classes, not between mums and women who are just trying to get on with their lives. But we should definitely be building bridges between nice, normal people who are just trying to get on with their lives and horrible bitches. And it doesn't matter who you are, anyone can be a bitch. And that should be the moral of this story.
Maybe it is, because it's not over yet.
Not people that live in Maudsley Street are all bitches. Right.
Anyway, where were we? Baby senses class,
I've got that off my chest. I'm sorry for the rant, but this has been bothering me for a while. And I had to say it. Now I'm going to be nice about this.
Gemma doesn't realise at all that Bernie's taking the mickey out of these two women, does she?
Well, they're
She's just
all
sitting there
sniping
with
for each other, and
dumb grin on her face.
Gemma's a simple girl at the best of times, and she is basically brain dead now with all this baby stuff. She can't think.
She's got a baby brain.
She's just checked out. They're also the two mums, Vanessa and Imogen, being mean about Bernie and saying that she looks like a slob.
Oh yeah, what a state that one. That's her mama's.
She's definitely cultivating somewhat of a hippie appearance, isn't she?
Yeah.
She's always been a bit eccentric, but you know what? I've seen plenty of rich person look eccentric like a bag lady, and the only difference is they probably bought their clothes from Gucci, but she bought it from Primark.
What would they think of Nina if they saw her? But they make fun of her as well. I think that Bernie and Nina need to team up against Imogen and Vanessa.
Yeah, Bernie and Nina versus the Mina.
Yeah.
That's your storyline title for you if it ever happens.
Thanks.
After class, Gemma is trying to arrange to meet up with the other mums, but they're trying to get out of it and making all these excuses. Bernie's taking the mick out of them. They pick up on it. Gemma doesn't. It's just all a big cringe fest. Back at home, Bernie tells Gemma that those two have poles up their jacksies. They don't know what they're talking about, and she should just ignore them because, as we all know, classes in this country should never mix. That's what Downton Abbey was about. We learned from that. You can't mix the classes. We should all stay in our own boxes and never challenge ourselves or speak to anybody different because we might not like it.
Yes.
They have a nice telly-watching session on the sofa, just like good working-class people do.
There are some nice
and
Gemma and Bernie scenes.
Imogen and Vanessa were playing chess.
Yeah, and Kathy
together with their au
comes
pair.
over for a bit this episode as well. I can't remember why that happens. I think that's a little bit like I was saying, like sometimes they just insert characters so that they can say, you've been in this episode.
Right, tick.
You know, like I was saying with Tim earlier, it's like, yeah, there you go, Mel. You've had a scene in this episode.
Get out
You didn't
now.
really have anything to do, but...
In the Ginnel, Gemma and Bernie come out to the bins and they realise that Imogen is having a party.
Or Vanessa. Whichever one it is that
And they
lives in
said that they were
Wolsey
going to be
Street.
busy because they're saying, talking that you can tell that she's come out into the Ginnel to put something in the bin, and she's saying something about rosé, which, as we all know, only evil middle class people drink rosé.
Yes.
Common people drink cider.
Naturally.
Yeah, so she's been brushed off, hasn't she?
Yes.
Bernie storms in there and basically, what is she
She
saying?
gives them a big, yeah, basic.
Yeah, basic. And Gemma drags her off. She's trying to give him a big talking to. The evil one...
This is kind of the one bit this week where Bernie kind of embarrasses herself and gets her ideas above her station, and and Gemma has to rein her back in again. But she was only doing it to protect her daughter. There's a lot that Bernie has done in the 8 months that she's been in the show that has been for the sake of her daughter. She just got a goes a bit arse about face about getting it.
Yeah. So they're having this... Yeah, so she has a go at them, and Gemma drags them off, go back at home, and Gemma's mad at Bernie and says, look, now you've just made a big scene, I can't be part of that group anymore, then they're not going to want to have anything to do with me. And Bernie says, listen, you don't need to worry about them, you need to worry about how overwhelmed you are. And Gemma's like, oh, no, I don't care about that, I just need some mates, I just need somebody to be friends with me, and now I don't even have that, thanks, Mum. Bernie can see that she is burning out, she needs a break. Chesney comes home and he's moaning about how tired he is, and Bernie says, you having a laugh? And Gemma's trying to downplay this, going, I'm fine. You don't need to fight this battle for me. But clearly she needs somebody in her corner, because poor old Chesney has not got the slightest idea of how much work Gemma does and how hard she's finding it.
Yeah, well, he's there slicing pitters and carving doner kebab. She's there drowning in nappies, and whenever one baby gets off to sleep, the other one wakes up.
Miserable.
She just says, I just want a mate. And that reminds me of that Doctor Who thing. Now I come to say, do you remember the bit when in Donna's episode where she's where the Doctor invites her into the TARDIS or something, and she's like, I just want to... No, he says to her...
Who's he?
The Doctor says to Donna, sorry, we're just going off tangent completely here, I just want a mate. And Donna thinks that he's saying that he wants to mate with her. And she gets all offended and says, you want to mate? And when Gemma says, I just want a mate, Chesney should have said, that's what got you into this problem in the first place.
Stop doing that.
Sorry, that's my long-winded joke there,
what
everybody.
What a funny joke, Michael. Thanks for sharing.
I thought it was a joke, it was just a reference, a really obscure Doctor Who reference.
Thanks.
I'll shut up.
Gemma tells
Drink my
Chesney
tea.
about the Imogen situation. She's all depressed, she hasn't got any friends, and Chesney's like, it'll be fine, because he doesn't care. He convinces her on Friday to go back to the mummy class again. And then the mean mums are there. They are there with the other class. And Imogen... Is this Imogen or Vanessa?
I don't know.
Michael's written it down indiscriminately because he doesn't know the difference.
I honestly don't know the difference between the two mums. One of them is
tried to
there
tell
saying,
you.
"Oh, I'm really, really sorry. I'm sorry that about what happened yesterday. Let's make up. Come to lunch with me. Do you fancy it?" But whichever one it was, I mean, both of them were being horrible, weren't they?
The shorter one is the nice one.
But neither of them are nice. They were both being horrible about her.
The shorter one's more horrible. The shorter one is the one who has got the au pair, and she was the one that was having the party. And the taller one is the one who is trying not to be so mean. We really need to work this out, Michael, and you need to write down the correct.
Okay, I'll get it right next time.
Because
If we see them again.
I'm sure that we will.
Okay, fine. Gemma agrees to have a drink with them
I'm trying to
later on.
work out which one's which, but I can't. So basically, the meaner mum. I think the thing what's going to happen. I think how this is going to go is that the one who isn't so mean is just going along with it because she's scared of the mean one, and she thinks she's going to get bullied if she doesn't join in. But she's not really a mean person. She just kind of sucked in to this world of the mean one, and the mean one's going to have some kind of comeuppance, and then Gemma will be friends with the one who's not so mean, just likes to bully people as a hobby.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. Anyway, they go off to lunch at Speed Dial, and as we know now, Geoff is in charge. They're allowed alcohol in there, and it looks like the plan is get Gemma drunk, because she started to drink a little bit and she started to say funny things about her life, and they're basically taking the mick out of her and giving her more drink so that she'll say more ridiculous things, and so they can laugh at her and take the mick out of her and belittle her. Bernie doesn't know where Gemma is, asks Paul. Paul says she's fine, invites her for tea.
Oh yeah, there was they
kind of like
rebuild those
rebuilding the
bridges between Bernie and Paul. Maybe just for Kel to come for one final hurrah. I don't know. It feels very, very unfinished with Kel, but I don't know whether we're going to get any of that or not. But yeah. Gemma
comes back from the loo just as they're talking about how funny she's and pathetic she is. She kind of tells them off and storms off with their kids, and she gets the big buggy out and she's kind of all stressed.
She's all het up, isn't she, going down the road and realising that she's been made a fool of all this time.
And I was saying to you, how the hell can she see where she's going? And at that, almost like
literally seconds later,
she steps out into the road and nearly gets run over by a car. Luckily, the local police are there, and just as you would expect the British police to, they, instead of trying to help her, they threaten her to arrest her for being drunk in charge of children, because that's exactly what people need when they're upset and drunk. We don't want to be lectured about being in charge of children or cars or anything, please. We just want to be given a nice hot chocolate and patted on the head, tucked into bed, if you don't mind. She's stressed out, yeah. So one of the policemen is Craig.
PC Tinker.
And they basically just, he knows her, so they escort her back to the house. Bernie's there, trying to defend her, and in the end, Craig just says, "We'll don't do it again. We'll just leave it at that." Gemma then breaks down when they're left alone, tells Bernie about the car, and she says, "I'm so tired all the time. It's like a nightmare, but I'm not even asleep." And Bernie says things will get better. Gemma thinks there's something wrong with her, and Imogen's right, and she's terrible, and she gets hugs and stuff, but it's still not over. She's doing washing later. Bernie offers to help. She refuses. Gemma knows that she can't cope, but she doesn't really want to believe that she can't. Chesney is in the kebab shop working really hard, and Craig comes in and says, "Oh, you don't know what happened, do you?" When he realises that Chesney's got no idea. So he tells him. Chesney runs home, and instead of just helping Gemma out, he basically lectures her about being drunk in charge of the children. And Gemma says, "I promise I'll be a best mum ever from now on. I won't be bad anymore. I'll be as good as I can possibly be. I promise, I promise." And Then there's a bit where she's in the house alone. All the children have finally got to sleep, and then Joseph shouts down the stairs saying, "Oh, I need some help with my maths homework" or something. And then all the babies start crying again, and she can't. You can hear
then Chesney's
crazy.
phoning her.
Chesney's phoning her. She's like, "Look, the tea knocks over, goes all over the table." They
have some lovely sound effects.
There's echoey sound effects and.
Oh, we love them when they do that.
Repeating, saying "You're terrible, you're awful," and she just runs out into the yard and just freaks out.
Yeah, and I think you hit the nail right on the head when you said that this is heading towards some kind of postnatal depression story. Although,
from what I've heard, it seems to be a rite of passage.
Oh, that's what I was going to say.
No, I'm just going to say, if you're a mum and you have a baby and you haven't at some point left the room to scream because you can't cope even with one, that's a very normal thing that every single mum has done.
It feels like postnatal depression storylines are 10 a penny, and I'm sure they're not that common.
No, I was about to say that as well. It feels like every single mum who has a baby has postnatal depression.
I can't actually think of any that have, but...
That have what?
That have had postnatal depression. That had postnatal depression, I don't remember. But it just feels like lots of Corrie mums have had it. and they go through a stage where like Katie did, didn't she? Wow, actually that's kind of interesting. I'm sure Katie, after Joseph was born, had postnatal depression. So if Gemma is going down that route, then maybe Chesney will remember what Katie was like and be able to offer some support or something, or he'll recognise some signs or something. But even that was ages ago. It just feels like it's like, oh, what do we do now? What's the story that you can have with babies? Oh, let's have postnatal depression, which I don't know.
Well, it affects 15% of people according to Wikipedia, and in the US, I don't know about Canada, but it's called postpartum depression.
I think we get it called that here as well.
Well, maybe it's the other way around.
It feels unoriginal. It's not like the Corrie viewers were shouting out, like, when are we going to have another Gemma story?
Or when are we going to have another story where a woman has a baby and she realises that it's really hard work?
I'm sure that in the Katie story as well, she, you know, it almost got run over in the middle of the street as well. It just feels like well-trodden ground is what I'm saying.
Maybe they're going to go into postpartum psychosis.
Maybe.
That is very rare, 1 to 2 per 1,000. But that can be very, very, very serious because it's the leading cause of the murder of children less than 1 year of age.
Really?
You don't really want that.
Not wrapping them up in tinfoil and putting them in the oven?
I think that would be part of postpartum psychosis. I know you're joking.
Oh dear, I feel guilty about it now.
Well, no, I know. I don't really want... Listen.
I'm not inspired by this story, although, to be fair, I am actually feeling some sympathy for Gemma, and I think I said
really
this last time.
But I don't really feel like inescapable crushing depression is something I want to watch on Corrie right now.
Yeah.
It feels like she's trapped in a situation she can't escape from, and it's terrible and overwhelming, and I think we all can agree we don't really need to see that on the TV at the moment. I just want to see light-hearted, fluffy nonsense.
But we've got that for a lot of the rest of the story. And I suppose Geoff and Yasmeen isn't like that. I know, but the thing about
Geoff and Yasmeen is that you can see it's kind of like a puzzle, like who's going to find out next, and how is she going to get out of it. You can feel that she's going to get out of it. Whereas how is Gemma going to get out of having 4 babies? That's literally the only way is to like wait them out until they grow up.
Yeah.
This is going to be...
The story is that she doesn't want to accept the help that her mum's offering her, and Chesney's been useless.
Chesney really deserves a bloody slap. I want to pick him up and beat him to death against the front door.
I think Bernie's just going to eventually get through to her, or there's going to be some kind of, you know, Gemma walks off to the edge of a cliff or something and nearly pushes the buggy over the edge, and then Bernie comes and says, oh, look how bad you've got, and then Gemma says, okay, I'll accept your help now.
I just couldn't believe it when Chesney came home and it was like, oh good, Chesney's here to help her, and he just went, stop being a rubbish mum and drinking on the job. Like, he basically went, I heard about what happened, and she's like, I know, it's terrible. He's like, yeah, you nearly killed our children. It's like, no, your wife, what, they're not married, are they?
No,
they're engaged. Your partner got so overwhelmed that she nearly got run over. She's stressed and overwhelmed, and you're moaning about kebabs.
Get your priorities sorted, Chaz.
I keep always coming back to this, like the phrase, like, it takes a village to raise a child, and it really does. And Gemma's not just raising one, but she's not getting any help. And Bernie's trying really hard.
Not got that fresh goes money anymore.
But Gemma seems to think that what is she like, she has to do it. Like, she thinks that she has to do it.
I think it's partly because she's still fighting against that preconception that a lot of the other characters on the street have got against her, that she's a useless mother and she's not good enough. And I mean, that they had a year ago where she was being incredibly annoying and people were saying, good job you're not a mum, or something like that, you'd be a terrible mum. It was when she was interested in being a kind of replacement mum to Joseph, and Chesney being horrified with just how awful she is, and all this time she's been battling against people thinking that, and she's like saying, no, I can't fail at this. If I fail at being a mum, I'm going to prove everybody right, and I need to be able to do it myself.
Isn't failing.
No, but it's actually, she thinks it is.
I know, but there's so much pressure on mums.
So it's kind of interesting, but like, I could do without it.
To accept help is to accept you can't do it by yourself, but you should be able to do it by yourself because it's the most natural thing in the world.
I was interested. I did remark when she said that we don't have any mates at the moment, Chesney, and it kind of made me think, do they have any? And Gemma Gemma is mates with Emma, isn't she? But Emma has really not had much to do with her since the babies have been born.
When your mate has a baby, they distance themselves from you, whether they mean to or not. And I know that quite often women will say, "Oh, when I had a baby, all my friends disappeared." But it is a two-way street.
I suppose Emma's going to caught up in a new romance with Seb at the moment as well. She's got her head there.
Yeah, and like you can't. It's difficult to know how to relate to somebody whose life has completely changed and now revolves around a baby, as it should do. But it creates a barrier, and that's why mum groups are really important, and why lots of mums really find solace in those groups. But as we've seen, it throws people together who aren't necessarily ever going to be friends in normal life.
Yeah. There's she's also friends with Kathy, although that's a bit different. Kathy's obviously a lot older, and it's more a work colleague kind of thing. And Rita as well. And then there's also Rosie. She and Gemma were friends for a bit before Rosie went jet setting off to Japan, wasn't she? So yeah, maybe the nicer of the mums, whichever one it is. Vanessa, I'm going to say, will end up being Gemma's friend in the end. I don't know. And I could see her being friends with Fizz even as well, because Ches and Tyrone are friends. There are plenty of people there. It's always the way, though. People in Coronation Street complain that, they haven't got anyone when the people that could be their friends just don't realise the suffering they're going through.
I just really hate talking about this storyline because it makes me feel like I do not know what I'm talking about. And when I talk about it, I don't want anyone to think that I think I know what I'm talking about, because I don't. I just try to be empathetic.
Let's talk about the next story instead.
I can't relate to this either.
You can't relate to a story of living in an old folks' home.
No.
With a
I'll tell you what I can relate to. Being some kind of obscure European countess with fabulous hair, because I think that's what
you'd like
my
to be able to.
is.
You'd like to be able to relate to this story. This is
One
like your
day.
end goal, isn't it? Going to a glamorous old folks' home in the middle of the country somewhere.
I said to
with
you,
fencing lessons and a cult, the mystery with to uncover.
I said to you, this is it's like living on a cruise, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yes, sign me up.
Basically, it is.
When we went on our honeymoon
cruise... I don't know how Ken's affording it.
I don't know either. One of the leaflets that they had on the front page of it was like, we would like to just celebrate Mrs. Blah and Mr. Blah, who have been on the ship for 500 and something days, because they just get on the ship and they never get off.
Yeah, if you can afford it, why not?
Sign me up.
So
I tell you what, I tell you what, we couldn't even afford it. I was going to say we'd end up on the Isle of Wight ferry, but that's the most expensive.
That is
stretch of water in the world. Yeah. We better even afford that.
So Stillwater carry on, Gemma. Ken and Claudia are looking around in their new home, all the different activities that are on offer.
Dusty Creek.
How many different names can we come up with this place? So they're introduced to Felicity, who's another resident there, and it turns out that there was supposed to be some literacy society talk that was going on, and the bloke who was supposed to be doing the talk had a bad fall during a game of Yahtzee.
What's Yahtzee?
Yahtzee is
what do you do? Is it a card game or a tile game?
Is it not a dice game? I might be confusing it with Boggle.
Is it Uno?
It's one of these, old games that you...
Is it Whist?
It's one of these games that your granddad's got in his cupboard, and when you go around there and you're little...
So we play backgammon and you say, no, it's okay.
Yeah.
Yahtzee.
Kaplunk? I don't know.
Buckaroo.
Whenever I see Yahtzee, I'm thinking of...
your friend Ben.
My friend Ben, who is now an internet sensation games reviewer.
Michael,
that everybody knows.
you?
No, I'm not.
You're a Coronation Street internet sensation.
If anybody listening has seen the zero punctuation YouTube series, then the person who runs it was a friend of mine at school.
He was your best friend?
Yes. He was one of my good friends. So that's my claim to fame, although I'd never tell him that. Because I haven't spoken to him for about 15 years anyway. Anyway.
Very good friends they were.
Yes. And his internet name is Yahtzee. Anyway, Ken volunteers... No, sorry. Ken is voluntold by Claudia to do this talk himself, because he is a published author. He's got his book about life on the street or whatever it was.
Technically, we're both published authors, and we'd be just as qualified to do this as Ken is.
Why are we published authors?
Well, because you've been in a magazine, and so have I.
Oh yeah, but that's not an author. I don't think it's a writer, maybe.
Roll my eyes.
Roll my eyes at me, Gemma. Anyway, they also meet up with this guy called Francis there, who charms Claudia with being able to speak Mandarin. Ken didn't like that.
I was impressed by this. Was it Cantonese or Mandarin?
I don't know, actually. I
think he said he could speak both.
I don't know which one. I can't tell the difference. Ken is a little bit nervous to talk, but he gets up there and he reads this extract from his book, and I expect whoever wrote that episode enjoyed.
Like, crack my knuckles.
Yeah, this
my time to shine.
Arty-farty nonsense about living on the street and wanting to move away but never getting a chance to escape or whatever. It's basically the story of Ken's life, isn't it? And it all goes well. He gets a big round of applause from the crowd, and then there's a heckler in the audience who asks, how many books did you publish? Can you just tell us? It is only Norris Cole. He's back, everybody.
Heckling.
I would say a lovely surprise, but I had seen a spoiler that he was going to be there. Did you know that Norris was going to be in it this week?
I had seen, yes.
Yeah, that would have been a really great twist if we hadn't realised this. And yes, it's a massive soap coincidence that he's there. But to be honest, you've only got Ken and Claudia as representatives from the street at the moment, and it makes sense to have somebody else there to make up the numbers. So we have Norris, and then Freda's there next to her as well. Although I did feel this week we didn't really get to see very much from Freda's point of view. She's kind of cast as the brainwashed villain. Not just somebody who's gone along with the cult of Stillwater. But anyway, Norris is asking Ken how many books he's actually published, and he's like, "Well, one actually. Don't mention it."
He hasn't published one. He just had his stories put in the magazine.
I thought he did. No, I think he has got one book.
Okay.
I think he said one. I'm trying to remember. I don't know. Anyway.
Everyone's like,
Ken is very pleased to see Norris.
Everyone's like, he's only had one. And then Francis is like, oh, what? Like, all these other people who've
that's right. Yeah, he puts Norris in his place by saying there are many literary one-hit wonders. And Norris...
Such as, don't ask me.
Yeah, I wasn't really listening. Anyway, Norris is, put in his place. Yeah, so after the talk, they have a nice little reunion, and Ken forgives Norris for embarrassing him in front of everybody because he had the last laugh, basically.
Yeah.
And the story goes that Norris and Freda have decided to retire down there to... so I can't think of any other funny names of the place. Slightly Sparkling Waters. And...
Stale crackers. I already said that one.
Don't worry, don't get them all out at once.
Misty Woods.
And they've given up on Emily. Emily's still living up in Scotland. She's just got some nice Chinese lodgers moving in with her. And they've been there 4 or 5 weeks now. So Claudia and Freda seem to have got on quite fine while they're at the sort of sitting down having a chat there. But while they're at the bar, Norris is saying, "Ken, you got to get me out of here." And I thought, this is what it's utterly ridiculous, but I'm going with this story. If Norris says that it's almost like living in a cult with this Charles guy who we met at the end of last Friday's episode at the top of the pecking order, and everybody kind of kowtows to him, and he's, the mafia don of Stillwaters, it feels utterly stupid, but I am completely bought into it. I'm absolutely loving this. And we get to see Charles at the end of the episode, who invites them all out to a nice fondue together. So Wednesday we have Claudia and Ken lounging about in their room.
Oh yeah, they had
Lovely
this room
view.
with like a really gorgeous panelling, and all of their, you can tell they're posh because all of their tables and a coffee table are made of like luggage trunks, like gorgeous old leather ones with big... It's like, why would you have that? I
am loving the on-location shooting for this.
Me too.
It's a real place, isn't it? And it's gorgeous, and it's so different. It's just that's what this is just so fresh. This story feels to me. There's nothing else like it. There hasn't been anything else like this, or at least for a very long time. So I don't know what's going to happen here. Different visually. It's a set of characters that are generally, side characters or add-ons to other people's story with Ken and Claudia and Norris and Freda. You don't get stories based around the old people very much. Yeah, back in the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, it was all about people their age. So it really has a feeling of kind of classic Corrie to it, a feeling of nostalgia that is absolutely wonderful. And then it wasn't in it on Friday, was it? There was a little not that we've said Wednesday yet, but there was a little bit of Claudia shows up at the pub, doesn't she?
Well, yeah, because she gives Evelyn a makeover.
Yes, of course. Anyway, so
Wednesday.
back on Wednesday, Ken and Norris are having a cup of tea, and Norris continues to badmouth the place, and he says,
Last chance gulch.
Yeah, he says, Freda, she's really changed since we've been living here. She's been indoctrinated into this cult, and she just,
But I don't understand. Norris keeps going on about it's a cult and stuff, but what does he think's going on? Like,
I don't think he thinks it's really a cult.
No, I know, but he just doesn't like it there, and Freda does.
Yeah, he doesn't fit in, and
I
he's
don't
saying
understand why Norris ever thought he would fit in there, or how can he afford it?
I don't know where I don't know where he gets his money from, and also I find it a little bit odd that Freda, who I always saw as being very kind of astute
and down to earth as well,
yeah, and would notice these things.
Seems to be in a dream.
Yeah, but I'm just going with it.
Yeah, me too.
Totally.
He wants Ken to get him out of there.
Yeah, he says, yeah, you're my ticket out of here. Please have a word with Freda about it. And then Claudia shows him in fencing gear, doesn't she?
Stunning, didn't
she? Yeah.
What does she
woos
eat?
Ken away.
And what's her exercise regime?
Yeah.
Forget all the chubby actresses who slim down for a Christmas exercise workout DVD. I want Claudia's.
Yeah, Ken's landed on his feet there.
She probably just has like one yogurt and an apple every day, and then spends the rest of the day like doing a hate walk about everyone who's ever wronged her in her life.
We see
That's
Charles.
what I'm going to do anyway.
We see Charles at the end of the episode reminding Norris that he owes gym membership for using the pool, and so he just seems to be the guy in charge, doesn't he? And if you want to, he's a bit like the Mama Morton of Stillwater, isn't he? Mm-hmm. I think. And Norris likes to be in control. He likes to know everything that's going on. He's used to the gossip and.
Well, he's used to freedom as well.
Yeah.
It's like being in a gilded cage. You really have to know what you're signing up for if you want to go to one of these places or go to a cruise or something. If you're the sort of person who absolutely must have spontaneity. But you see, I would have thought Norris would like routine. I'm scared of change. I hate it. I want routine in my life. I can't wait to move into an old people's home and be told when aquarobics is.
See, I'm watching Norris on the 1990s episodes of Coronation Street as well, and I think because he was like a travelling salesman for so long, I imagine that he likes to be free and get around, and I don't know, but
also there's a bit where Ken lies to Charles and says he went to Morocco, but then him and Claudia talk about it. And she's like, darling, you don't need to impress anybody. But you can see Ken was like, well, it was on my wish list of things.
Oh, yeah.
And it basically, the kind of implication is, well, that wish list has gone in the bin.
Yeah, basically.
If you're here in Pine Gulch, you can't go anywhere else. This is the last stop.
Yeah, but also it shows that even though he's been warned off of Charles by Norris...
He still wants to ingratiate himself.
Yeah. What else?
I'll tell you what I would really love if this done. Do you know what this feels like? The beginning of an Agatha Christie novel where one of them's going to be, like, Charles is going to be murdered.
Oh, maybe it's they find him one day with a fencing sword. I don't know. I'm sure it's got a proper name.
Foil?
Through his chest, and Claudia is accused, and it turns out that it's actually Freda.
She's like, I was just pretending I liked it here. It's terrible. So pretentious.
I do hope that we get to hear more from Freda. It was great to see her, because I don't think the last time or a couple of times that Norris has been in the show, he's not had Freda with her, so I didn't know whether Ali Briggs was just brought back for last year's, but it looks like she is a character in this, which is fantastic, but it does feel like she's just been brainwashed now, and we're not going to see anything from her point of view. It's basically, she's sitting on the side.
She's like a minion for Charles.
Yeah, which is a shame. I liked when Norris was talking to Ken about Freda at one point. He's like, keep your voice down, the walls have hearing aids. Oh, great.
Somebody should tell Gemma about that because of Aled.
Yeah. I wonder, with Freda in the show now, could there be the potential for anything? It seems odd to have their deaf character and we're just having a story about deaf babies with there being no crossover at all. But I mean, there's no reason, obviously, for Gemma to go and visit them. No reason for Freda to leave. But if they ever do get out, like Norris wants, I think it would just be sweet to have Freda.
It would be empowering.
Yeah, but really, these two characters have no reason apart from, the whole shared deafness.
Experience, yeah.
Yeah. Have you got any inkling as to what Charles is up to?
I think it's just like he's trying to fleece everybody because it probably costs a lot of money to keep this place going. And he wants to just milk as much cash as he can out of the old
pauper or something.
Get everyone get in the will.
I just cannot wait. I would have this story every week. It was lovely, lovely, lovely. And one of the things I said to you the other day that I liked about this is because you've got your locked in set of characters, and they're all characters alike, and there's no chance that a random other character is going to come in and ruin it. As much as I said I'd like to see Gemma have something to do with Freda, we know that Gemma isn't going to come blasting in the doors of Stillwaters and mess it all up. This is about the old guard, the reliable, awesome, over 70-year-old actors. As I said, like the evening stuff this week, it has got a real feeling of classic Coronation Street to it. More, please. More. Now, we've got another romance possibly blossoming on the street this week, haven't we? Not just Evelyn and Arthur, but as we said earlier, Sebelina budding.
Sebelina
is also
budding.
Happening.
Yeah. On Monday, Emma tells Seb that her mum, Fiona, has offered to pay for them to go to Australia at Christmas to pay for their flights. And he's like, no, they've got spiders. I'm not interested. He's not really that bothered.
Oh, imagine if you were going through like an Australian forest, if you were Seb and one of those giant massive spiders gets caught up in your hair.
No, be quiet. You're a gravy waterfall. I can kind of see his point a little bit, because if you go over there, you're going to be a third wheel. And what if she doesn't like you?
Yeah, if you don't go off to Australia and if it doesn't work out, you come back the next day, do you? You're kind of locked in there for a good 3-4 weeks, probably.
At someone else's pleasure, beholden to them for your ticket.
Yeah.
Anyway, Emma's really keen. She wants to go. She lived in Australia, didn't she, with her mum? So she's...
I think they might have said that.
She wants to go back and see her. Because she couldn't go this Christmas. She wanted to.
Yeah, because they had her and... what was her brother called? Morgan. He showed up at Christmas, didn't he? I wonder whether we'll see him again.
So, he's like, okay, I'll look at stuff with you. So, Seb, Kevin and Abby are talking about going to Australia. And he's like, oh, I don't even have a passport. And they're like, oh, you're just trying to find excuses. Then he has to shut up about it because Emma has to come and help behind the bar, and she's like, oh, just making a bit more money so we can go to Australia together. And eventually he tells her that he's going to go to Australia with her to see her mum.
Fiona.
Yeah. Thing is, also, it's also a commitment, isn't it? Seb seems to me like he's very happy where he is. And he likes to live in the moment. And he also seems like the kind of guy who would not ever want to commit to anything. So he now is being asked to commit to this relationship with Emma, at least until Christmas and beyond Christmas.
I think she's definitely seeing it a lot more seriously than he is.
Well, she's thinking long term, and he is just not thinking beyond tomorrow, really. He's a bit annoyed on Wednesday because he finds out Emma has organised a girly night in, and this was amazing. I love this scene.
Oh yeah, that was awesome.
They'll watch
I think that this
Dog's
happens.
Purpose.
I think this happens because I think Maria says that you need to give Seb a little bit of space or something like that, so she kicks him out to have this party.
He gets exiled to the pub, but when he goes there, Alina's there as well. And Eileen encourages him to get a booth, and it's really awkward.
Yeah, and then
what is Eileen up to?
I don't think she's trying to play Cupid or anything. There was a bit when Alina and Seb were there at the bar doing a little linky yummy drinky glassy thing. So it looks like they're going a bit closer, and then Mary's there, aghast in the background, going, "Oh my
goodness,
gossip!" If only I could tell Norris about this.
Yeah. So the girly night in is Emma, Amy, Maria, Tracy and Emma. They have a game of truth or dare.
Yeah, I bet Emma twice there. Who else was there? Abby? Abby was there, wasn't she?
Oh,
Yeah, Abby was there.
They have a game of Truth or Dare. I can't remember if anything comes up there. But it is very cute because they watch the dog's purpose, they all cry. And I think it was Abby who said, what kind of psycho kills a dog 4 times in one movie? And I just thought, it sounds like the sort of thing I definitely don't want to watch.
I also liked at that party they were talking about who would you spend on a desert island with? Who'd you like to be on a desert island with? Which we had a list of questions at some point in the last year, didn't we?
We did do about who would we want to be on a desert island with.
I can't remember. Was it... Somebody says, I've written it down here. Maria picks Tracy to go on a desert island with because she said she'd be good at killing stuff.
There's also a really good quote when Emma says, Tracy's my evil and wicked stepmom. I'm only joking. And then when she walks past, she's like, I'm not joking. It's really funny to think that Emma has Tracy as an evil stepmom. That's quite hilarious.
That was a great scene. Is that all that happens on Wednesdays? One for that?
Well, Emma asked Abby if Seb ever talks about her, and she's really into him.
And she's clearly head over heels in love with Seb.
On Friday, Alina tells Mary that she is pleased for Seb and Emma, and Mary's like, didn't look like that last night. You should tread a bit carefully here. Emma walks in and overhears this, of course. So there's a bit of tension. There's a salon scene where Fizz and Audrey try to reassure Emma that she really doesn't need to worry about Seb, but Maria says some relationships just need fighting for. So Emma goes to visit Alina at work, and Alina's like, there's nothing going on between me and Seb, and Emma says, do you want there to be? If you and Seb want to be together, I will just walk away. And this was so sad because all the way through, I think Emma feels like she's Seb's second choice.
It's really tragic, and like I said before, I'm getting it's wearing a little bit thin. That Emma is everything.
Continuously wants to be the carpet.
Yeah, she really did. She gives up too easily. It was the same when she was going out with Ches last year, wasn't it?
Yeah,
and then
she's like, I'll do
she
the
realised
right
that
thing.
he fancied Emma, and she kind of dumps herself basically. And I know
Emma
it's
realises he fancies
the
Emma.
tragic heroine. And
who does Chesney fancy?
Gemma.
What, you said Emma?
Sorry.
Tragic.
And it's like, poor Emma, everything bad ever happens to her. On a wrapper and cotton wool, it does a little bit. And
self-inflicted when you keep asking people to date your boyfriend.
This isn't why people liked Emma, and I still really do like Emma, but she's doing her,
because you really screwed Gemma up, and it's going to take that character a while to get over what you did to her.
I don't think. I mean, they're not in any danger of turning Emma into anything like they did with Gemma, but she's just not as. She doesn't feel quite as consistently fun and kooky anymore.
Yeah, that whole story that she had with Steve was a really nice addition to her tale, but that's not what I want for everyday Emma. I want her to just be a fun little garnish.
Yeah, I don't need continual bad things to happen to her, especially if, as you said, she's making a rod for her own back.
Yeah. Alina finds Emma in the salon later and said, look, I had been hoping that Seb and I would get back together when I came back to Weatherfield, but now I realise that I have no designs on him, and why would I do that to you anyway?
That was quite nice. We're friends.
I still don't believe it, though. It's a bit tense later in the pub, and Alina's in a bad mood. You can tell that although she said this to Emma, she secretly kind of wishes that she still wants Seb back. She gets stroppy with David because he pushes in front of her in the queue, and there's a bit of like, ooh, zingy zing.
Well,
like,
I mean, if you've ever watched a soap before and you think, oh, these characters, they've never had anything to do with each other before. Now they're in a scene together, and they it looks like one of them's annoyed at the other one. They're going to be in bed by this time next week together. So look out for that, everybody.
They don't even have to be the same sex or orientation as each other because it'll soon change.
Yeah, exactly. So look out for that. And I mean,
I think it's pretty clear that Alina and David are going to get together. I mean,
it looks like that way, doesn't it?
David and Emma jumped into bed immediately.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. He's got a bit of a thing for the younger
David
woman.
and Seb are basically like brother-in-law.
Something like that. There must
I'm
be some
sure
way
there's a horrible word that
related,
men use to describe when you've slept with the same girl as another bloke.
That does make me really, really sad, though, to think that David, despite everything that's you know, everything's going pretty bad between him and Shona at the moment, but I don't like the idea that he would be unfaithful.
Well, he's kind of given up on her, isn't he?
Yeah. It's
well, anyway,
tragic.
we're pushing David and Alina together in bed, but we don't know.
No, but
we don't know.
You know, you know the you recognise the signs, don't you? When you've been watching a soap
they're in the same room
enough.
as each other.
Yeah. I still
really
can't tell who I want Seb to be with, and I thought that, you know, with this has been going on for quite a long time now, and I thought I might have made a decision, although we haven't seen enough of them. But I am still absolutely happy whichever one it is that he goes with, because I think that both women are absolutely perfect for him, and I think one of them just needs to die.
I kind of wish
Not that I want to kill off either of them because they're all great.
Do a Tracy Barlow and just become lesbians together.
No.
Emma and Alina. Why not?
Because poor Seb.
Well, sorry, but I feel the least sympathy for Seb out of everybody in this story, because he really...
Got two beautiful women fighting over him.
He hasn't... He should make Emma feel more secure, and he should say to Alina, I don't like you, or vice versa. Because at the moment, he really does feel as though he's quite happy to have two women moving in after him.
You're right about him needing to make Emma feel secure, because he really didn't seem up for that trip to Australia, did he?
No, and
he's been going out with her long enough.
Because Emma's so enthusiastic, she's like a puppy, and I can...
Maybe that's why you can't let her down. I mean, he doesn't want to make a commitment, maybe, and she does, but he doesn't want to, you know, kick the puppy.
Yeah, I know.
But I always kind of got the impression when he was going out with Alina that he would have been happy to settle down with her. Maybe Emma's just not the...
Emma's just not the one for him.
Yeah, I think he's kind of realising that she's got the beauty but not the brains necessarily, whereas Alina was a little bit smarter for him.
Well, she's definitely bilingual.
Yeah, exactly. He must be clever then.
I honestly think that Seb and Alina should be together, because honestly, this is a very cutthroat way to come about to that decision. But of the three characters, I think that Emma has got the staying power to be in the soap for a very long time.
Oh yeah,
and I think that
no to keep her.
Were they to decide that Seb and Alina deserved a happy ending, they could just ship them off somewhere, and I'd be quite happy and find it very sweet and heartwarming to say goodbye to them. I would not feel the same way about saying goodbye to Seb and Emma, and I certainly wouldn't like Seb to date Emma and then dump her to go off somewhere else.
Well, we'll see. It's not exactly the most gripping of this week's stories, but you know, I enjoyed all the characters in it, and it's nice little respite from the rest of the drama. Yeah. Finally, and we did kind of hint about this before, we had a little bit more of the Shona storyline on Friday. David's gone to visit her again, and he's basically just giving up because she doesn't want anything to do with him. It transpires that Clayton's been in touch with her as well. A legal
question: when does it become stalking?
I know he is. Isn't he?
When you're going to visit your legally married wife, but she doesn't remember who you are for medical reasons. You made a vow when you got married. You make a vow for better or for worse, for richer or poorer, in sickness and in health. So
does that stand up in court?
Yeah. Well, yeah. Does it? That's a really interesting question. I don't know. I'm sure there is an answer.
He's
like you said,
Clayton's been in touch, and she'd thought Max was Clayton at first, hadn't she? Remember back at Christmas time, whatever it was.
Seems to have forgotten that Clayton's a wrong one.
Yeah, so
handy.
Gail points out the bleeding obvious, as David said, I think, by saying you really need to make sure that she is fully informed and she knows the full picture about Clayton. I think, was that what Gail was saying? Was she basically saying, next time you go over there, before she gets a chance to kick you out, tell him that he murdered...
Tell her that
he murdered somebody.
Murdered your wife.
Could you do that? If you know that your wife is, been shot and she doesn't know what's going on and she's very confused, you'd feel pretty guilty by telling her, by the way, your son's a murderer. I just thought I'd fill you in on that one.
I'm not really going to make a decision on that until I get to that situation in real life.
I wish that they would just let Clayton die. Every time they have a Clayton story, it's
oh yeah, that's back again.
Yeah, I don't like him being.
So he's still in prison.
Yeah,
but he's contacted her from inside.
Yeah, I just don't like him being there, the millstone round her neck.
Well, we said this all along. Like, remember when he went to prison? I remember us having a discussion, and like we were working out like when is he going to come out of prison and stuff. And even though he hasn't actually been released from prison, he's still cropped up in the story to antagonise David and Shona's marriage. And you're right to say that it really will not stop until he dies. And we thought when he got out of prison and kidnapped her,
I thought that would have been a perfect excuse.
I know they weren't done with him.
Keep on breathing, Also in the story this week, we had Gail getting another Mrs. Mop job, this time at Underworld. And why not? She's the best bottomer in Weatherfield, so Nick's lucky to have her. Yeah, I did enjoy Nick's frustration at Gail trying to tidy up around her and everything. It's just, I
also like the way she gave Nick David's lunch, but then David turned up. And I really wish that she had just gone, oh, Nick, you don't mind. Although I think we know who the favourite child is.
Oh, yes, I think we do. Anyway, so again, that feels like that's a story that's warming up for next week anyway. We'll have to wait and see.
Nice again to see the Underworld set, which really looks incredibly expensive and incredibly underused.
Expansive.
Yes, it looks enormous. And Alina's working there as well.
Yes, indeed. Right, great Coronation Street this week.
What are you going to give it?
4. I'll give it a 4 because although I didn't hate any of the stories, I can't say that the Gemma story or even the Seb and Alina like really really grabbed me and gripped me. I'm going to give it 4 orangeries with actual oranges in them out of 5 this week. What about you?
I'm going to give it, I don't know whether to give it 3.5 or 4.
Well, you must decide.
I know, I have to. It's my own decision, isn't it? It's
like sticking jelly.
I know it is. I think I'll give it 4.
Yay.
4 Jeffrey Metcalfs in the UK, because when you Google it, at least that many come up. Who's your character of the week?
Gosh, I don't know. I mean, there's a few options. I'm partially leaning towards Alia, just as like a sympathy vote. As yeah, come on, Alia. I was cheering her on this week. Honestly, I was. And as a character that I have hated in the past, and I'm sure I'll go back to hating again. It's like I feel like when the time is right, she should get it. But
I'm going to give it to Evelyn.
Equally, I was thinking Evelyn.
I loved her this week. Really great. Like the expanding her backstory that didn't involve Tyrone, which is nice. It means that she's got her own life outside of the ties that bind her to Coronation Street. I loved the makeover. I really liked the vulnerable side of her. I think they're still doing a good job balancing that with her being a cantankerous old boot, which is why we like her.
Yeah, really. She hasn't lost that.
There's a lot of danger in stories like this, and we've mentioned it with Emma, where you have a character that you love for a specific reason, and they humanise them a bit too much, or they give them too many things to overcome, or too much sadness, and you lose what made them so precious and wonderful to begin with. And really, it's funny to say that about somebody who's such an old bitch, but that's why we like Evelyn. I don't want the rough edges to be smoothed down by adversity too much, but they've done a really good job of balancing it.
I don't know whether I could vote for Alia over Evelyn when Evelyn, as you say, was just so perfect for me this week.
I know, but when will Alia ever get another chance?
I know. She's not, is she? I liked Alia this week. I enjoyed everything that Geoff did.
Did you?
I enjoy how evil he is. That bit where he dropped the plate and gave it was a flourish, wasn't he? I enjoyed Yasmeen, of course. Shelley's still doing a brilliant job. I appreciated that neither Gemma nor Bernie really wound me up this week.
That's not a reason.
Everyone at Stillwater was brilliant. I love Norris, I love Ken, I love Claudia, I love Alina, I love Seth. The main players this week were all fantastic, but Evelyn just stands...
Very strong.
Evelyn stands just head and shoulders. She's very tall.
She's got a great shampoo routine.
Oh, she's just brilliant. She is rocketing up our best characters list, isn't she?
Yeah.
What a signing. Don't ever leave Maureen Lipman, please. Right, I think that's it then. That's it for Street Talking now.